Do you ever think about the notion of direction in one's life? I mean, it's an expression we just sort of naturally accept, but the idea of there being a direction in your life is talking about a direction in time, not a direction in space, which is kind of really, really abstract if you think about it. Um, it's almost as if, like, when you're trying to think about your future, it's not like you have a physical direction that is your future. Sometimes it is. If you're just as simple as walking forward, then your future, the direction is an actual direction. The reality is, it's more like we are envisioning all these overlapping potential futures as this like hyperdimensional plane, and it's within that hyperdimensional plane that we have actual direction in. And it's almost like our awareness is this thing that is existing within this four-dimensional plane, and our body is itself in the three-dimensional plane, and with its capacity to, envision and what's the word I'm looking for? Simulate potential futures. Um, it can sort of scan out the cloud of 4D space and sort of get a sense of, okay, this is what the possibilities are and these are the possible directions. And then you start thinking, well, like, well, what's my position within this moving landscape? And sort of make your decisions based off that. And it's strange because it's like, I mean, is it just a metaphor? Or is that really the better way to think about reality? Is like this marriage between the mind, which is in this four-dimensional space, and the body, which is in the three-dimensional space, and how they interrelate to each other. The other thing I want to talk about is the sort of fact that truth, it's more of an emotion than it is something factual. At least the way that we experience truth, there actually is an emotion that comes. It's like something feels right. And in the scientific process, sometimes, our intuition doesn't exactly work and doesn't exactly make predictions relative to the data. So we get more and more and more complex models that are less and less intuitive. And often when you're learning a new model, when you're first, learning it or a new concept, it might not feel right, but you accept it because, this hierarchy of beliefs that you have about, science, and you say, okay, well, I know that in the past people have attempted to verify this. And so in the beginning of trying to understand this new concept, it's like it's just the factual truth. But eventually, usually there is this sense that just comes in that it feels right. Like eventually you start to just accept the way it works, and it's an intuitive process rather than an intellectual process. And that balance between like how we actually um, assess truth collectively versus how we individually feel it, like Colbert says, truthiness. Um, I think that if we started to just like talk about it in that language, that truthiness is, or truth or whatever, the way that we really experience it as beings is as an emotion, and that emotion is not always right. I'm trying not to plan anything that I'm saying in these. I mean, that's the balance in creation is between pure improvisation and sort of taking those pieces that come from that improvisation and structuring it into something you choose to repeat. Um, but I feel like I have this tendency to sort of have a difficulty in recreating what was great about what is just coming out of my mouth naturally. I mean, there certainly is a value of this. structuring of the flow that comes out, because then you can really learn from it, or you can gain a lot of well, I mean, it's like what powers creativity. It's what powers the new, is that flow, that uninterrupted flow. But we can't always just be flowing. That wouldn't really make sense, you know? Like, we need to also have these moments where we're observing and we're cutting out, that which was, I guess, unintentional, even though the state of flow is a state of non-intention. But you will notice that you do make these subtle flubs even when you are trying to just speak and flow naturally. And the duality between intent and flow in the process of creativity, I love that.